Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
Brian Hornecker is our next guest on Swim Lessons, and he's the assistant boys basketball coach for right around the last 22 years at Minot High. He's one of the best human beings on earth. I really like the guy. He's someone I look up to, and just to get to chat with him not only about the game of basketball, but about the game of life. And he's a longtime teacher, longtime coach, and he actually got his first coaching job at Columbus, North Dakota, which is about a school of 26 people, moved on to Divide County High School, where I'm from, and then got a job at Minot High, where he's done a lot of great things, and he's family. So I really appreciate Brian, and I think everybody can take a little lesson from his book of life, if you will. But before we get to Mr. Hornecker, we got to talk about, oh my, it's Neighborhood Pediatric Therapy. They're located in the central part of Minot and providing speech therapy services to individuals all the way from birth to age 21. Services range from free screening, speech and language evaluations, and therapy for a variety of areas including feeding, language, speech, sounds, and auditory processing. They also accept a wide variety of insurances. If you can look up more information about them on their website at www.neighborhoodnd.com. That's neighborhoodnd.com. And you can reach them out the old-fashioned way. That's 701-837-8877 about any questions, or just set up an appointment to go see them with your child. And they do a great job down there. Next up is ProSafe. ProSafe is a locally owned and operated company since 2000 out of Williston, North Dakota. It's a name you can rely on. They offer expert pest control, ground sterilization, as well as red rock for oil field production. Give ProSafe a call at 701-774-3167, or just check them out at www.prosafe.com. That's ProSafe, PROSAFE.com. Glosso Angus is a proud sponsor as well. Glosso Angus is your premier source for registered Black Angus cattle since 1973. Glosso Angus showcase dominance, durability, and docility, and they are built to thrive on the northern plains. Check out the great and powerful Glosso Angus at Glosso, that's Glasoe, Angus, ANGUS.com. Great people out there, Glosso Angus. Next up is, oh, I love this one, Henny's Coffee. Henny's Coffee, which is located in beautiful downtown Crosby, North Dakota, right on Main Street. They not only have coffee and espressos, but they got the Zingers. Zingers is a flavored drink with Red Bull in it, along with all types of baked goods. Henny's, one of my favorite places to go in Crosby. Check them out on Facebook at Henny's, Hennys Coffee, or give them a ring at 701-965-2182. Next up is Up Top, the clothing company. Up Top grew up from the ground up, and that's why roots are so important to the team at Up Top. Up Top was formed in Butte, Montana, from its founders of Luke and Colt Anderson. Up Top continues to be designed in Montana with Butte's tough as nails mantra, with apparel for both men and women. Check them out on social media at UPTOP, or just online at teamuptop.com. They've got a lot of good stuff over there. Last but not least, one of my favorite spots, Tegan's Interior. Tegan's Interior is located on Main Street in Crosby, North Dakota. Tegan's Interior offers all types of products for shades, blinds, flooring, and lighting. Anything you need when remodeling your home or building that dream home of yours. Reach out to Tyler and Nikita Swanson at Tegan's Interior, that's TEAGANS Interiors.com, or give them a call at 701-965-6367. That's all our sponsors. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate you tuning in to Swim Lessons, and this one will go down in history as one of the fun ones for me. That's the great and powerful and legendary Brian Hornecker. Brian, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate you opening up the gym, and yeah.
No problem, Dallas. It's fun to be here.
What's it like to be one of the greatest human beings of all time? I mean, everybody's got nothing but good things to say about you.
Well, that's good. I guess that's nice, but I don't know. Just live your life right, and hopefully people like you.
Can you pull that mic a little bit closer to your mouth?
You bet.
There we go. That's perfect. No, but I really, when I started dating Kristen, and it was a small world because I told my mom, And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I used to babysit Ryan, who's your son."
Yes.
So it's a very small world. And tell us a little bit when you came out of college, you and Janet, your wife, are obviously married, but you started your first coaching was in Columbus, North Dakota.
Yeah. So for 2 years when I was in college, I coached at Memorial Middle School out at the Air Base. A bunch of diverse kids, and it was a great experience for a young guy to decide kind of what I wanted to do. And we actually, Janet and I both signed contracts in El Paso.
Really?
And then through a job fair in Grand Forks, and we were headed there. And then in the summer, prior to going that direction, Janet got an interview up at Divide County and got the job. Came to me the next day. They wanted me up there for an interview. So went up there. They said, "We've got the Columbus head boys basketball coaching job open." And I said yes immediately before I found out they had only 26 kids in high school and only 12 of them were boys. So, but it was quite an experience, and took that job. They loaded me up with a bunch of other stuff, half day phy ed, bus driver, elementary basketball coach for Divide County. And anything I could take, I took that year, and it was quite busy, but really good experience for 2 years coaching at Columbus.
Yeah, and I mean, people from Divide County still love you. I mean, Jody Nelson, she talks about you quite often. And what was your experience like in Crosby?
Well,
because did you go to Divide County eventually?
Yeah, well, I taught there.
Okay.
And then went over and coached in the winter with the boys program in Columbus. And for 2 years we did that. And then after 2 years, the school board in Columbus decided to dissolve the basketball program. We just didn't have enough kids to keep going. And I did have wonderful kids there, only 7 of them. And then I had another kid that was a student manager that came into practice and helped us. So we had 8, and then myself and one of the guys that ran the gas station came every day. So we had
awesome.
10 guys in practice, and that was it for 2 years. But I did have some talented kids there. Pat Darris was one of them. Jason Tweeder averaged 30 and 32 as a senior.
Wow.
So we had kids that could score and just didn't have a lot of depth, but a really good way to get kind of into the coaching world and figure out if I liked it. And I was a little different then, a little more volatile and critical of officials and immature. And I look back and think, man, I would have done a lot differently if I knew what I knew now. But then the girls' job opened at Divide County, and so I took that job for 2 more years after that. So spent 4 years up there. In Crosby, I had great girls to work with. Hated to leave when I got a job opportunity here in Minot. I was kind of torn on it. It was a tough choice, but yeah, there's a lot of them that are still up there, like Tanya Eriksmoen Keller at the time, Trina Jacobson, Miranda Lindsay. I mean, I'm thinking of the names. There's a lot of them that pop into my head, but I had a good group of girls that worked hard and got after it, and we went to regional tournament both years, and couldn't get beyond that, but really good experience.
What's the conversation like? Because you're young in your teaching career, but a conversation like, hey, should we make this jump to a kind of a smaller school to this is a huge school, Minot High?
Right.
What was the conversation like for you and your wife?
Well, it was kind of a no-brainer at the time. You know, Janet grew up here, and this was home for her, and so I love the people in Crosby. Still connected with some of them, and you know, I couldn't have picked 4 years to spend at a place better than that. I feel like. But yeah, the job opportunity here was something we couldn't pass up. It just was what it was, and get a chance to get here and then have a sophomore B job open for me as an assistant coach. And so 34 years later, here I am.
Yeah. What, did you start coaching right away at Minot High?
Yeah.
And this was your first time coaching boys?
Well, I coached the boys in Columbus.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So 2 years the girls, and then back to the boys program here. Gene Manson, who I knew from way back, was the head coach at the time here, and Bart, his son, was really good friends with John, who is my brother-in-law.
Yep.
And so I knew him all the way up, and so he just, like I said, happened to have a sophomore B job open, so that was the 4th guy on the totem pole at Minot High and on the varsity bench every night, and a really good opportunity to kind of get into this world as an assistant coach. And
what was it like coaching with Manson? Because I mean, people talk about him all the time.
Yeah. Obviously, his record speaks for itself. Super human being, a great basketball coach. I mean, he did wonderful things for the state of North Dakota, I think, in basketball for however many years he was in it. And we went to 16, I think it was, straight state tournaments under him before we finally fell apart at one of the WDAs and didn't make it. But, you know, from the Class B perspective, I know the argument is always there about what's easier to do. And until you have to go to a WDA and find a way to win 2 games before you lose 2, you don't realize how difficult that is at times. But and we're a big school and we should get there a lot. But 16 in a row is still a feat that I don't think's been matched since.
Yeah. I'm a Class B guy, but last year the Minot High freshman team came up and played us when I was head coach at Divide, and they were extremely talented. They ended up beating us by 8. And I was like, see, guys, that's why you got to continue to work hard and grow, because those kids were just going up and down, up and down. And I joked around with Dean on the last podcast about me getting it in with Pearson. We got into an argument a little bit there on the court, and he ended up getting a technical. But no, I mean, just things are a little bit different at these bigger schools.
Right. I mean, we cut kids typically that would play for a lot of Class B schools, and it's unfortunate that there's not opportunity for some of those kids. We cut less kids now just because the kids quit for whatever reason earlier in life. But yeah, I mean, many of those years we've gone off and played in Class B tournaments. We used to play in the Sweet 16 with our sophomores and our JV for many years, and it was a great experience and good for our kids. But yeah, I think it's good to see a little different style of basketball. I think you see more man-to-man defense at our level than I used to when I was coaching Class B myself. And so, yeah, it's a more physical game. And so, yeah, it's good for both sides of that to see what's out there.
It was really cool last year, too, because we were up playing a tournament around here, and I asked you if we could come into Minot High and do a shoot-around. You said sure, and then I asked you, would you talk to the kids? Now, what would young Brian Hornecker say if I were to tell him, hey, 20 years from now, you're going to be talking to the Divide County's boys basketball team, and you're going to be the assistant?
Right.
But, it's kind of a small world in that way. But one of the things you said when I asked you to talk to the kids when you were talking to them is be where your 2 feet are. Be where you're at. Don't think about anything else. Talk to us a little bit now on the podcast, because I thought that was one of the best speeches our kids had ever heard. But talk to us a little bit about be where your 2 feet are.
Well, I just think that if you look at your job as the big time, like no matter what it is you're doing, and it could be in any facet of life or any career choice, think of what you're doing as it's the big time, and treat it that way, and give it the effort that it deserves. But be where your feet are, I guess, to me just means like, okay, I'm the sophomore coach for 14 years after I did the B job. And that was important to me, like to do the best job I could possibly do at that and be satisfied with that. Maybe not the level I wanted to coach at all my life, but treat it as if it's the most important thing. And I think the kids respect that and notice how important you make it. We were just talking a little bit ago about Jaden, my nephew, who's coaching in a sophomore or a freshman tournament right now in Fargo. And when we went on here, found out they were in overtime. But he's a classic example of a kid that really is into what he does.
That's the national championship for him.
No
that's
kidding.
awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's making it the big time. And he loves it. And I think all of our assistant coaches, I don't think assistant coaches in general get enough credit.
No. Yeah.
And there's a lot of us that have, there's a lot of them out there that have never done a head coaching job. I'm lucky enough to have done that. But I know the role is different. We don't take the heat when we lose, don't get probably as much credit when we win. But, it's the beauty of it is you're part of something that is way bigger than you, and you have to realize that and, like I said, enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, and something you enjoy to do too and I really like is you work at the state fair as well. And you get to see every concert, but your job is to provide all the merch. One of your side hustles is for the merch for each of the bands. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got wrapped up in that, because I think that's awesome.
Right. It's been a blast, and it's kind of been a family thing that for 7 days out of 9, we go out to the fair and get the merchandise from the concerts and from the bands that come in and count it all out at the end of the night. But during the show, you're kind of just there to watch the concert, which is a pretty deal, I guess. And but yeah, I love music. I love concerts. I love that thing. And Pete Stenberg actually heads that up he's our baseball coach here at Minot High. Okay. But he's had that gig for a while and has about 8-10 of us that he's brought on to do that. It's been fun. Can
you share with us like a really good experience you had where maybe one of the artists came back or because you've been doing it for a while now? Do you have a really good experience?
Yeah, there's been a few that like they'll sign autographs in our stand at the end, but those are usually the up and coming bands.
Yeah.
Like the band Perry did that with us at one point. The only one that's ever actually come back to our stand and acknowledged us was Kenny Chesney, which I thought was so cool because he's big time, obviously.
Really?
I mean, he's selling out massive venues, and but he came back to our stand and did something, and actually, approached us and said thanks for what we're doing. And so, yeah, it's just pretty special.
That's awesome. And you're going to do it this year, right?
Yeah.
Again?
Yep.
A lot of people talk about last summer the Jelly Roll concert, and Jelly Roll is up and coming now. He's kind of. Did you get to see much of that show?
Yeah, I saw the whole thing. The funny thing is we have 3 stands on big nights like that. One of them is underneath the grandstand. Mm-hmm. So it's always kind of a fight between all of us to see who gets to be out in the front and who's underneath. But I'm a country guy, and even though Jelly Roll's kind of new kind of style of country, there's a few of people in our group that aren't country band lovers, and so they are willing to go back in the back. So most of the country bands I get to see. The rap stuff is, I can take it or leave it, I guess.
Yeah. Another thing, kind of your side hustle that I didn't know this, but you and Dean kind of do together, is you ump baseball games. You're a big baseball fan, diehard Chicago Cubs fan. Well, how did you get into umping?
Well, I was a baseball player in college, and that's what I did. That was my sport that I did the best at, and so I played it. Did a little umpiring when I was young, back home in Pekin, Illinois, where I'm from. Did some little league stuff then, and actually at a time when parents and coaches, and they were really, they hadn't had it figured out. Even now they don't either, but back then it just seemed like it was a given that you were going to get yelled at by somebody. So I got tougher mentally to be able to handle that. I try to convince my son, Ryan, who to do it as well, and he just doesn't want any part of that. So you got to have the skin for it. But I think it's been a great opportunity to stay involved in a sport that I love. Be on a field. I've done, countless state tournaments and big games, and it's been a blast to be involved. And like I said, I just love baseball, so a way to stay on the field.
A lot of people, even from Crosby, when I told them you and I were going to do this, they're like, oh, make sure you bring up his umping. So you're known around the state for umping, which has got to be a good feeling. Yeah,
it's kind of cool, I guess. There's a brotherhood of us around the state, and we've done a lot of state tournaments. I feel a little bit guilty because the same group of guys seem to get this tournaments a lot, and there's a lot of new young guys that are into it now, and we need to get more officials like that. Like you saw the basketball game last night, there's 3 good young officials on the floor.
Yeah.
And at some point, they need to get their opportunities to do West Region tournaments and state tournaments, and some of them are. And I think high school activities is starting to do a better job of realizing that some of our new young officials and umpires need their opportunity to get a big tournament.
Well, it helps them keep invested.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's
numbers are low.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way to entice guys to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Switching gears back to Minot High, I had a close friend of mine. He applied to become a head coach this year. He was the assistant years prior, didn't get the job. He called me, was really upset, and I used your story for an example. I found your story very inspirational and talked a lot about your character, but I said, you just got to keep going. You got to be the assistant again. Tell us a little bit, if you would, Brian, kind of your story, because I thought it was one of the best inspirational stories I've heard in a while, and it tells a lot about your character.
Well, as you know, Dean and I applied for this head job at the same time when Chino left and retired. And he got it, I didn't. And for a moment, I was bitter and feeling sorry for myself. And then I realized after he called me an hour after he got the job to, basically tell me he wants me to stay on staff. And I love coaching. And so, I could choose one of 2 things: quit coaching and feel sorry for myself, which does no good. So if you've coached as long as you have, or as I have, and you've done it, that you're constantly trying to tell your kids, that they all have roles that are significant to the winning of the basketball team or to your success. And so how could I possibly preach that to our athletes? If there's one of the boys that plays for us now, there's nights he plays 3 minutes, there's nights he doesn't play at all. And I'm constantly trying to tell him that at some point, and I've done this long enough to know that in a West Region tournament or a state tournament, a kid like that is going to make a major impact on our winning or losing. Yeah. And so you got to keep them ready. And if you're going to sell kids on do your role and do it right, then why would I as an adult feel sorry for myself and say I don't want to coach anymore and that. So I stuck with it. I've had a wonderful experience with Dean. we've been together, I think, 14 years now.
Wow.
And I was the sophomore coach when he first got here, and then Bill Usenski retired, and I was moved up to the JV. And we really, I think, have a good working relationship that I think has helped, both of us to make our program successful.
Yeah, I love that story. That's a good story, Brian. Shifting gears a little bit more. Do you need water?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit. Let's talk about this Minot High boys team you guys have this year. When this comes out, it's going to be right around the WDA time. You guys have been successful this year. Had a nice year. You've got some nice pieces. What's it been like for you to kind of sit back and watch Dean coach his son? Before we hopped on, phenomenal point guard. Eric does all the little things right. What's it been like for you to watch this father-son bond right in front of you?
Having done it as an assistant coach myself, I have the experience of knowing that it's really difficult to separate at times. You have a tendency, because every parent does this, to watch your son play or your daughter more than the other kids, and you notice all the things that they do. And I think Dean is getting way better at that. Over the course of the last 3 years, Eric's played for us, and I think as he's realized that just let Eric go. You don't have to get on him harder than other kids. It's not a dynamic that needs to happen. I think it's let him flourish a little bit, just be himself on the floor and not worry about, is somebody over there looking at me or so.
Yeah.
So I think as that's kind of ironed itself out, it's been good. And Dean has done, like I said, a better and better job of separating the father-son thing and just treating him as another kid on our team.
What's the name of the kid that plays forward and center for you guys? He just signed with North Dakota State for wide receiver.
Logan Conklin.
What's it been like to coach that kid? He's awesome to watch.
Yeah, freak athlete. And Logan's a kid that, played for us as a sophomore when we won the state title. And then last year when we he was with us as a sophomore when we got second. And then was always Derek Doucette was always our guy at that time. And Logan didn't have to score. And honestly, I didn't expect him to be that much of an offensive impact this year as he has been. But he's I would say nobody works harder than him, and that's true. But we got a lot of kids that put that kind of effort in, Eric being one of them. But he gets tired and needs breaks, but you can't keep him off the floor long. But super good kid, works hard. And I think anytime you have multi-sport kids, it's going to lead to your success. I always think of the example when my son was a junior. We had 13 kids on the varsity team. 11 of them went on to play college sports, and only one played basketball.
Wow!
And we were really good. Didn't win a state title that year, but the competitiveness just bleeds, and it comes off from. You know that these kids have had to line up in other sports. And so Logan's an example of that. Has been a track kid, just freak athlete, super good kid, great parents. And so it's been a joy coaching him.
What do you think is kind of the ceiling for this team you're coaching this year?
Well, I mean, like I said, the WDA is number one. We need to win a game Tuesday and get that 1 seed. Go in there. There's not going to be an easy game. We could happen to get the 1 seed, get Williston the first round, who plays a freak 1-3-1 defense that you don't ever see. It gave us some trouble. So, I mean, starting with game 1 of the West region, it's going to be a battle. I think if we play like we're capable and just be ourselves and not try to do too much, we could win a state title and we could not go to state. There's been many years like that where I've thought we didn't make it and we could have won it had we gotten there. So, like last year was an example of, we lose a game on a last-second shot in the first round of the state tournament to Red River, and had we found a way to win that, we could have won it all. But it's just one game at a time, and super good group of kids. We're closely bonded, and I think that's a benefit, going forward.
Talking about closely bonded, I'd be amiss if I didn't talk about the family that you and I have become a part of, but the Ziegler and Wallen family. And coming into this, Kristen had told me she had a big family, but then I meet you and John and Jay and Larry, and there's a lot of people, a lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
What was it like for you to meet Janet and kind of come into a big family? Because you grew up, you had a brother, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yep, so you had one sibling.
Right.
You come into a family that's got, what do they have, 6, 7?
5. Well, 5, yeah, in that.
Yep.
immediate family.
What was that like for you, Brian?
It was.
This is personal for me.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because,
Yeah.
they still joke about it. Like when I came around, so the first time I'd met Janet at Minot State in the student union one day, and was introduced to her by Gerard Cederstrom, who's a softball coach here still today and good friend of mine. Anyway, at that time I was working at the Ramstead Middle School lunchroom where her dad, Larry, was the principal.
No kidding.
And so at lunch one day, he came over and we started visiting, and he said, yeah, I have a daughter that goes there. And of course I know that I'm already, getting after her, trying to get a date with her or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that conversation was funny. And then
Did he know?
No, he had no
didn't
idea.
know.
No. And so later on, I think to this day, he'll say he was trying to tell her, you can't grab onto this kid from Illinois. You'll never stay around. You'll end up moving. And so anyway, I somehow or another wiggled my way in there to the point where I ended up living with Jay for a part of a year, but ended up staying at their house most nights. They had an extra bedroom, and I was over there already, and I just crashed out in this. So, I mean, they took me in like a son, and I'm forever grateful for that. And it's been a wonderful group of people to be a part of.
How great of a human being is Larry? I mean, he's top
amazing.
notch.
Yeah, I mean, salt of the earth, obviously, but yeah, he's, like I said, he's been a principal. It's funny because when he was a principal, he was hard-nosed, everything by the book. Had teachers turn lesson plans every week, and I mean, he knew what was going on in his building, and it's just a different guy than what you know now.
Yeah.
It was more soft and gentle and loving and that kind of thing. But yes, obviously a super good guy, and great to be a part of his life and have him part of mine.
Well, like last night, we sat kind of behind your guys' bench, and Larry was sitting on a chair, and even after the game, I bet there's like 5-6 people that came and shook his hand. They were of all ages, not just people his age. Like, hey, good to see you, which talks a lot about his character.
Right. And he's really bought into this opportunity to sit behind our bench. I put a chair there for him.
I love it.
I think he feels like he's part of the coaching staff now, but
he's like the senior advisor.
Yeah, once he finally learned how to text, he'll text me on road trips, tell you and Dean both good luck on tonight's game. So yeah, it's been, I think, fun for him, and things like this that you're doing, and the PSP network, and the other network that you're doing for like the
game
Class
day,
B stuff, game day. Those things are fantastic for people like that on some nights when it's miserable cold in North Dakota, they'd rather stay home, and what a great opportunity for a lot of them to be able to stay in tune with high school sports.
Yeah. Another thing I want to talk about is before the varsity game, you came over, said hi to us, but you also got to have a really cool moment between your grandkids, and I've kind of noticed that's an annual thing with you guys. What's it like to not only be a grandpa, but to have the kids come to the games, look up to their grandpa who's on the coaching staff of this great team? What's that mean to you?
It's amazing. When you get married and you have kids, and you obviously love them like nothing else, and then all of a sudden these grandkids come along, and you think, this is a part of my life I didn't expect and or look forward to like I thought I would. It was amazing to see them grow. The two little tykes now, are babies or whatever, less than a year old, but Easley's now in the first grade, and he's getting involved in a lot of sporting activities. I mean, they got him involved in everything he could possibly do, and I think that's great for kids. Just try everything. And then the other 3-year-old I just took him to preschool the other day. The first day I took him, he had the little separation anxiety, so clung on to Grandpa's leg and didn't want to let go, and I had to tear him away from me. But yeah, I mean, I think most people that have been grandparents will tell you this, and we're really blessed, obviously, that both of our kids live here in Minot, and we get to see them grow and go to all their activities, and everybody's not that lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a Bodie guy. I like Bodie a lot. He's awesome.
Super cool.
Little cute kid. We got 2 segments left. Okay, this next segment is called 10 for 10. And these are 10 questions. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just kind of your own personal preference. So you ready?
Yep.
So 10 for 10 with Brian Hornecker, and away we go. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
Palm trees or evergreen trees?
Palm trees.
Lake or ocean?
Lake.
Favorite actor?
Denzel Washington.
Good choice. Favorite band or rap artist?
I'll say Elton John, even though he plays in it with a band. But
Yeah, no, that's good.
yeah, my favorite artist.
Favorite city in Texas, or excuse me, what city in Texas has an NBA mascot nicknamed the Mavericks?
Dallas.
What city in Texas has an NFL team nicknamed the Cowboys?
Dallas.
What city in Texas spelled backwards reads salad?
Dallas.
Who is your favorite podcaster and favorite part of the Ziegler-Wallen family?
I got to go with Dallas.
Yeah!
I was going to go with Gabby Reese, but she's not part of the family yet.
All right. Well, Brian, Swim Lessons is a podcast about overcoming the tough times. We talked a little bit of some lessons that you use, but what does Brian Hornecker say to himself when his back's against the wall, things aren't going very good in your life, and what's something that maybe somebody listening to this podcast can take away and apply to their life?
I guess personally, I think I'm at my top-notch mental health when I'm helping other people. My motto, one of my mottos, I guess, and my kids know this real well, is that don't ever drive past a Kool-Aid stand. Like, be the type of person that will go out of your way to help other people, make other people feel good. So if you ever set up a Kool-Aid stand when you were a kid, you know how big of a deal it was when a car finally stopped by and one zoom by, then all of a sudden somebody stops, and how much that meant to you. So I've literally driven past them because they didn't have any cash, drove home, got some money, and headed back because that's my thing.
That's awesome.
I'm not leaving those kids hanging. So little things like that, like putting your cart away at Walmart and putting it where it belongs rather than out in the middle of the place where somebody's got to pick it up. But like I said, go out of your way to make other people feel good. Realize that what seems insignificant to you might be a big deal for them. And so do good for everybody you can, I guess.
Wow, that was a good answer. Well said. Good luck the rest of the way. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks for opening up the gym. And my last question for you, I heard you're going down to Arizona, right, to watch the Cubs down there in Mesa.
March 18th. Yep.
Do you need any? Because I went to a bunch of games. Have you've been to Little Wrigley before, right?
I've been to all those several times.
I'm so jealous. I told Chris, now we gotta go. It's the best.
Right. I actually my favorite part is just to go to the spring training site for the minor league guys.
Yeah.
Because I follow the Cubs obviously, and I watch a lot of that. I could hang out there all day and just see these young guys play, and it's amazing how many of them are out there all wanting to get their shot. Maybe 2% of them will, but yeah, it's fun.
When you go there, Little Wrigley, obviously, where the Cubs play is phenomenal.
At Sloan Park, yeah.
Yeah, Sloan Park. But if you kind of go by Talking Stick Resort and Casino in Scottsdale, they got where the Rockies play and a couple other people. And sometimes they'll have the the nation of Czech, one of the big nations like Mexico will come and play against the Rockies, which is really unique too.
Yeah, I think if you catch them on a World Baseball Classic year, which I believe right now is every second year, and they had it last year, that those teams are looking for games and whatnot. But a funny story, we used to, when the kids were young, we'd go autograph searching or whatever. But one time we went over, drove to the parking lot where the Anaheim Angels were, Anaheim at the time, but LA now, and in order to get them to stop their cars as they drove out, these players, we put Alexa, who was 6 years old, out as they were leaving, and every one of them would stop and sign their autographs. Yeah, they wouldn't sign mine, but
Alexa,
put a 6-year-old girl out there and they'll stop.
That's awesome. How do you think the Cubs are going to be this year?
They still got work to do. Yeah. So Cody Bellinger's obviously still a hope that they can get him back, and I think they've got money to spend, but they've been pretty frugal so far, so we'll see. There's room to fit some more guys in there for sure. But of course, I always think they're going to win. But
you going to go to Wrigley this year?
Potentially. It's kind of a, I don't know, spur of the moment type thing. If I can ever piggyback that with a trip back home to Central Illinois, where I'm from, that works out pretty well.
What was your feeling like when they won the World Series a couple years ago?
Unbelievable. Amazing.
Did you cry?
I lived through that. I don't know if I did. I cry easy, so I probably did have tears, I think. But yeah, that was all the years, starting in 1984 and then 89 and all these years that they with the Bartman thing. And something was always going to go wrong. And, of course, they hit the big 3-run homer to tie it in the 7th game. And then somehow the Cubs, after the rain delay, found a way to get her done. So, yeah, pretty amazing.
Well, listen, Brian, I don't want to hold you up too long. I know you got some spots you want to be in. And I just want to sincerely thank you for being a mentor to me and a hero to me, and appreciate you doing this podcast.
You bet. Thanks for what you do. I love listening to them.
Thanks, Brian. That's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.